There's one coil. Oh, oops. Hey everyone, well, you know what? Today we are going to work on something else on the 1977 Triumph T140v. We are going to do something I've wanted to do for a long time. We're going to install the Trispark Ignition. So they'll put electronic ignition on this thing, and my hope here is that it's going to run a lot better. The points on it at the moment work pretty good. It typically starts first or second kick, so not really a huge concern. But as many of you guys know about these bikes, they are super hard to kick over, really hard to kick over. And I'm not expecting miracles, but I am hoping that the bike will be a little bit easier to start and a little bit easier to kick over once we replace, the old points. I'm hopeful that that's going to make a big difference. And the reason being is this Trispark Ignition that we've got. One of the things that it does, apparently, is it actually dynamically retards the timing, or does it retard it? Yeah, or advance the timing? Not sure. But bottom line, it adjusts the timing such that the bike starts a lot easier on startup and will then dynamically change as the RPMs increase throughout the whole rev range. So that's why we're going to put this on here. Now, I know a lot of guys use Boyer ignitions, and other ignitions are a lot more commonly used, but really great comments and reviews on the Trispark. Made in Australia. I decided to give it a go. So we're going to see how that works, and that's what we're up to. So the very first thing we're going to do here, guys, is I am going to, I've been taking a look at it a little bit, and I think it's going to be a lot easier if I just take the tank off. I'm going to take the tank off just simply because I can see where the wires are routing a lot easier that way. I think we may have to take the side covers off too. And this is just the preparatory work before we really start, ripping it apart, taking the old points out, and installing the new Trisparks. Hey, let's just get after it. Okay, guys, let's get after it. I've got you zoomed in there a little bit more so that hopefully you can see a little bit better. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to crack these loose. These are the pillar bolts that hold the points assembly on. So let's crack those. All right, got those cracked. Let's take them right off. And once we have this off, now we're going to go and take a look at taking the wires off here as well. So we are going to use the same, come on out of there. We are going to use the same wires. We're going to use the same wiring loom that we have here. We're not putting a new wiring loom on it. So we are going to have to, we will reuse these wires. Okay, there's our points off. So, and you know what? Those points served us really well for a good long time. And as I mentioned, the bike runs pretty darn good on them. But you know what? They're just going to go on the wall now. They're just history. We're not going to be using those again. So the next bit is going to be to take this off. Well, it looks like that's 7/16. Hang on. Let me grab a 7/16 wrench. Just be 2 seconds here. That was 3/8. That's not right. Okay, 7/16. Let's grab this. Let's give this a bit of a go. Crack that off. So what we're doing now is we're taking the Spark Advance off, okay? So the Spark Advance comes off with a special tool, okay? I happen to have one here. I always keep it in the little original baggie I got it with. It says Spark Advance, and that way I know what the heck this tool is for, because you don't use it that often. What it does is you screw it in there, and it just pops the Spark Advance off. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's get her in there. I don't have the bike in gear, so hopefully we can... Well, actually, you know what? That Spark Advance is already loose. Hang on a sec. I think we can just pop that off. Hang on. Oh, no, it's not loose. Excuse me. I lied. We need to take it off. This way. Gotta screw that up. Yeah, I think I kind of screwed that up. 2 secs, guys. I'm just going to have to put that back together a little bit. Okay, I popped the little springs back in where they're supposed to be so we can use the tool and get it off. So don't do what I did. Don't pull it this way, although it seems kind of loose. See that? Seems kind of loose. Don't pull it out. Use the proper tool to pop it off. And there you go. That's why I show you this stuff. I show you my foibles as well as what to do, because I'm just learning myself. And hopefully by me learning, you don't have to make the same mistakes. So there we go. And just like that, we popped the whole assembly off. And you can kind of see, well, here, can I show you here what I did? Yeah. What I did when I pulled it is it just pulled this out of the assembly a little bit. But anyways, bottom line, we got that off. So let me just see. So that's good. So now all we need to do is take a look at our wires here, because this is where our new unit's going to go in. So you know what? Let's take a look at the manual, and then we'll see what the next step is. Okay guys, here's our Trispark manual for classic twins. And on step one was preparation, and essentially preparation is essentially read the manual. Step 2 is the thing we just did, which is to remove the original points base plate and auto advance units. So we've just done that. Now we're into step 3, to rotate the engine to the correct timing position. So that is what we are going to do next. So we're going to do that, but we're also going to use a little top dead center tool that I have. I mean, here it says, with the engine and gear, rotate the engine forward using the rear wheel until the correct timing marks line up, yada, yada, yada. This should be fully achieved timing position for your engine. For example, 29 degrees before top dead center for Norton and 38 degrees before top dead center for Triumph. So that's what we want, 38 degrees before top dead center. We're going to put it on the correct timing mark, but we're also going to kind of double check that a little bit with our top dead center tool. So let's go do that now. Okay guys, as you can see, we're on the opposite side of the engine now, and we're going to pull the timing cover here using our tool to go and see our timing mark. So the other thing I'm going to need to do is put it in gear. And yeah, I'll put her in gear, and then we'll spin the back tire so we can see the timing mark. I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit better so you can see it. You'll probably see it even better than I can. Okay guys, we're back going and trying to set up the timing here on the bike. And you know, the interesting thing with the Triumph T140v is it's got 2 marks on the timing wheel here. Okay, now I've marked mine. I did this a while ago. I've marked one of them red, meaning that's the wrong one. And I've marked one of them white, meaning, yeah, that's the one you need, which is 38 degrees before top dead center. And what I've done here is I've put the top dead center tool in up here, okay, so that you can actually, I want you to see this so that we know we're on the correct mark here. Now obviously we do not want top dead center. We want the mark that is 38 degrees before top dead center, right? So we want to make sure, now I've got mine marked so I know, but if you didn't know, you can use a tool like this to find out which one of these marks is the closest to top dead center. And then you know that's the mark you need to use. Don't use the other mark. And my suggestion is, you know, for future reference, marking them red and white like I've done isn't a bad idea. Although, you know, I guess you don't really need to do that. But in any event, I just want to demonstrate that to you. So let's go and just spin the engine here. So you'll notice down the bottom I'm spinning the engine a little slowly. And there's a mark, okay? Now we know that's red, and you'll notice our top dead center tool hasn't turned at all. Okay, let's continue turning it until we find the right one. And if you notice, I'm just going to back it up a bit here. Do you see that? Look at the top here. Do you see it moving? That's our piston at top dead center when it's at the top, okay? So that's it right there. So now what we want to do is go to the closest mark, which is going to be our 38 degrees before top dead center. And I'm just trying to get it kind of precisely here. Now, I'm showing you all of this on the left-hand side of the bike, but cylinder number 1 on this bike is actually on the other side, okay? So I wanted to show you here so you can see both of these in conjunction with each other, but it doesn't really matter on this engine because both of these pistons go at the same time. They're not opposite each other, so they're both at the top or at the bottom. So in this particular engine, it doesn't really matter, but just know that really to do this properly, we should be concentrating on cylinder number 1, which is on the right-hand side of the engine, okay? But I just wanted to show this to you so I could show it to you all in one shot. So hopefully that helps somebody, and maybe, you know, going forward, again, marking these up for me just takes the guesswork out of it. Anytime I can hedge against my own stupidity, I try to do that. Okay, guys, so you know, off camera, I've precisely set the timing at 38 degrees before top dead center on the other side there, just so you know, in case you thought I had a little bit off, but I've taken the time to eyeball it and get it really close. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly, because I have a feeling some of you guys are kind of screaming at your screens right now, saying, "You dummy, why are you telling people to check top dead center this way?" And you're right. If you wanted to check top dead center properly, in fact, if top dead center was your goal and not 38 degrees before top dead center, you would use this tool, okay? As you can see, I didn't even have it threaded in there. It was just sitting there. And you would come back to this bolt right back here, okay? You take this bolt out, and there is a notch in the, you know, in the flywheel, or in the crankcase, excuse me, in the crank, that this will actually drop into, okay? And so you use exactly the same tool. You remove this bolt, and then you go and you put it in there. Because it's a notch in there, then you can't move the engine anymore. So, I mean, I guess you could do it there. The value for this process, doing it here, is that, as you saw, we could kind of dynamically see it. We could move it back and forth, yada, yada, where if you do it there, she's locked. She's locked into the crank, okay? So I just wanted to kind of clarify what I was doing there and kind of why I was doing it, rightly or wrongly. Again, I'm just a mad tinkerman. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So if you guys think differently, then that's totally fine too. But this is the way I'm doing it. So let's get on to the next thing here. And the next thing, you know, let's go over and take a look at our instruction book, because I don't even know. Let's take a look. Our instruction book, what does it say to do? Okay, so we have rotate the engine to correct timing position. That's a check mark. Okay, terminate the 2 black wires. Okay, trim the point wires at the same time, right, because one's black and yellow, one's black and white. So we'll need to put some connectors on there, so hey, let's do that next. Okay guys, so in our handy dandy Trispark kit here, not only do we have, you know, our main unit, etc., but it also comes with a number of bits and bobs, a bit of wires, some bolts, yada yada, and these are the 2 guys that we need to use right now for our bullet connectors for the Trispark unit. They'll eventually marry up with those guys right there. So yeah, so let's continue on. Alrighty guys, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put those bullet ends on here, so for this, and if you notice, this has already got quite a bit of cable on it. The other thing is that I want to save these little special end pieces. I don't think I'm ever putting points on this, but when I sell the bike or what have you, if I ever sell it, or even for myself, I would just like to know that I can always put this thing back together with points if I so chose. So I'm going to cut these back a little bit more than maybe what you necessarily need to. And so let's just do that now. This is the part of no return here, so we're going to cut it about there. For this one, maybe a little bit farther back. And cut this one about the same, just like that. And I can put those pieces away now for you know, for future reference, along with the points and the Spark Advanced pieces that we don't need. So we'll strip these off. Maybe a little too much. There's one. I gotta say, that's nice wire. You don't get wire that nice anymore. It was a lot nicer in 1975. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so now we're just going to grab our bullet connectors and stick them on there. And of course, I don't have them here. I've still got them back on that piece of paper I was showing you. So here, let's get them and stick them on here. So make sure they're on there well. I think I'm actually going to strip that one a little bit more. I think I'm being a little too conservative there. Yeah, that's good. Let's get the other one a little bit longer too. I want to make sure we have really good connections here, kind of for obvious reasons. And yeah, okay. So let's do them. Stick one on there. Okay. Grab our tool. If you don't have one of these guys, it doesn't have to be this brand. Forget about this brand, but if you don't have one of these tools, get one. Get one. Just because, again, it's one of those things that, sure, I guess you can do it other ways, but you know what? Having the right tool here is really important. Okay. Do the other one. Okay, awesome. So we've got those on there. So now let's go with the next step. Okay, guys, just thought I'd share that I went and I used the fluke meter there just to test for continuity from the terminal connectors that we just put on back up to the wiring, which I'm not going to show you right now. We'll get into that a little later on. But again, just out of sheer paranoia, I mean, it's totally fine. I'm sure it was. But, you know, if the bike doesn't start, you know, it's just such an easy test to test for continuity. Just thought I'd share that with you that, you know, these sorts of tests as you go is not a bad thing because it can save you trouble down the road. The other thing is we're now on to step 5. So we did step 4, which for me was just terminating the connectors. Now, if you bought, if you went and you had bought, oh, it's not focusing very good, is it? If you had bought a wiring kit for this, like put in new points wiring, or in this case, electronic ignition wiring, then you'd need to route that as well as part of step 4. But we're using the old wiring because our wiring is fine, and that's one reason. The other reason is I just didn't buy the darn thing. Anyways, so step 5 is, which is our next step, is to install the Trispark rotor and stator unit. So loosely install the stator unit so that the holes for the pillar bolts are in the center of the adjusted slots as shown. Okay, great. Now obviously we have to get this on here first though. So what does it say? It says, mark the engine casing adjacent to CW on the outer rim of the stator unit, then remove the stator unit. Install the Trispark rotor with its 2 magnets in line with your mark as shown. So I'm wrong, you actually put this on first. Mark the engine casing adjacent to the CW on the outer rim of the stator unit, then remove the stator unit. Okay, let's do that next. Okay guys, so again, the Triumph T140v turns clockwise. I actually just double checked it to make sure I wasn't dreaming, but she goes clockwise. Now if you were doing this on a counterclockwise engine, the instructions are different. You'll see that in the instruction booklet. I don't need to explain that. It does say install the unit here. But we're not really installing it. We're just literally placing it in there, lining up the bolt holes here to make sure that we have it in the right spot, okay? So that's all we're doing with this. And we want the bolt holes to be in the very center, okay, of the channel. As much as we can, pretty close, okay? So just in the center there. Make sure she's set back. Yeah, so we've got it in the center here, in the center here. And then it's got, you're not going to be able to see this at all, I don't think, but there's the letters CW here that are on the side. And then what we want to do is take a marker and mark our engine case where that CW is, okay? And actually it's probably better to do it both here and a little bit on the inside here as well, because the next step is going to be to put the rotor on to line up with that CW mark. So if you can get it right in there, that's going to be probably the best spot. So my hands are going to be in the way if I do this on camera. So I want to be quite precise with it. So I'm actually going to stop here, but all I'm doing is making a line right beside this one here. That's the next bit. Okay guys, so it doesn't say to do this in the manual, but I also marked on the Trispark unit itself where I'm going to put my pillar bolts when I eventually do install this. It doesn't say in the manual to do that, but it just, obviously you want them centered, but and of course this is rough. We're going to actually go and do a proper adjustment or a fine adjustment of the timing later as part of this process, but just to get as precise as we can. It doesn't say to do that, but I did that. There is the CW on the side of the plate, which is where you mark it if you've got a clockwise turning engine like the Triumph is here. If it's a counterclockwise, you mark it in the other position, but ours is clockwise, so it goes there. And of course that's to get our 38 degrees before top dead center. So again, this is just rough timing so the bike will start, I believe. We'll do a fine adjustment later. Okay, for our clockwise engine, we've put that mark on the case as I just showed you, and now the next bit here is to install the Trispark rotor with its 2 magnets in line with your mark. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. Alrighty guys, okay, so the next step here per the manual is to install the rotors, and the way we do that is there's 2 metallic bits here. Whether they're magnets or not, I'm not too sure. I'm guessing they are. And we have to line up with our marks. Now you may not see my marks on here because the camera may not be picking it up, but I can see them, and that's the main deal. So we just pop that in there like that. And I'm not even going to worry about getting it too precise at the moment until I get this bolt in for a little bit. The one thing I will mention if you're doing this is the one little, I wouldn't call it an inaccuracy, but one thing that the Trispark manual fails to mention is the inclusion of this little washer. Now they include it in the kit, but the actual written instructions do not include it. When I looked at pictures of this, when they showed installed though, I definitely see this little washer. So make sure you include that little washer in there. They also include 2 different bolts, and they are different thread types. So before you do any of this, just either check the thread if you can do that, or just with your fingers just try it with this thing off just to make sure you're using the right one. Okay, and it's the Allen head one that you want to use here. There's some other bits and bobs in that kit, but it's the Allen head bolts or machine screws, whatever these are, is what you want to use. So I'm just going to adjust that now and get that lined up and then tighten it up. I got that really quite good, I think. Again, this just has to be good enough to start the engine, I believe, and then we'll... Now, the other thing here is in terms of torque values, I did try to look up the torque values for this engine, and I cannot find that in my manual, so I'm just getting at what I think is tight, rightly or wrongly. So if you guys know what the torque value is for this puppy, leave it in the description below, man. Leave it in the notes, because that way other people can see it, and I will, as you know with all my videos, I reply to every comment, so I will thank you very much for that, and probably take this cover off and re-torque it, because I looked in my manual and nowhere can I see the torque values for this. So we don't want to get too carried away here, but we want her good and tight. So that I think is really good and tight. Okay, and let's just see her spin now, and make sure those things are still lining up. Yeah, she's lining up good. Excellent. Okay, so that's really great there. So now we're on to the next step. Let's figure out what that is. Okay, well the next step here, guys, is to check for infloat using this little piece of wood that they provide. Show it like plexiglass in the kit, but on the picture, but it's just this little piece of wood. And what you're looking for is to have about 2 millimeters of distance between the rotor and the case where this mounts up. So we'll do that, and then the next bit after that is to install the wires. So you need to put the red wire here onto one of the pillar bolts, and then of course just connect the wires up black with white stripe to black and white stripe, and etc. Just pretty obvious stuff there. So the one other thing that they mention is not to tighten the pillar bolts down, so we won't do that because apparently we're going to be needing to do an adjustment. Just get them finger tight essentially for now, is my understanding. So that is the next bit. Alrighty, so let's check that end float for the 2mm. I don't know how much the camera is going to pick this up, but you want to stick this inside here, and you're looking basically for distance from the top of the rotor here to the underside of the piece of material, and you want to have 2mm there. And you know what, it's going to be really hard to measure that, but it looks like 2mm to me, so I'm calling that good. The next step here is to fit our Trispark unit, again lined up approximately where it needs to be with our holes and our deal on the side. Again, we don't have to get it really precise at this point because we're just doing this finger tight, and we'll be adjusting it a little bit per the manual so that we'll get it as good as we can. And then for the top pillar bolt, you want to use this red wire and stick it on there. So just get that in there finger tight. And our other pillar bolt does not have any wires attached to it. Okay, so that's on there finger tight, and now we just hook up our wires. Obviously just the same color, so we've got black with a white stripe to black and white stripe, and then we have a black wire with a yellow stripe to a black wire with a yellow stripe. So we just hook those up like that, and I mean push those together a little bit better off camera, but yeah, that's basically it. So now we go on to the next step. Okay, so we're now on to step number 6, connecting the coil wiring on positive earth machines. Now, my bike is positive earth, and that's why I'm looking at this instruction. If yours is negative earth, then you're going to be following a different instruction. But anyway, mine's positive earth, and most Triumph bikes of this vintage are. So it gives instructions on how to do that, and essentially what it's saying is that we need to disconnect the black and white and black and yellow wires from the coils, and then start doing the wiring as is listed over in the diagrams on the next page. Now, as you can see, there are 4 different diagrams based on what you have, but in my case, I have a classic twin with positive earth and 2 6-volt ignition coils. Or at least that's what I'm about to have, because we're going to put those on. So that's what we're going to be doing next. But before we do that, we need to actually disconnect everything from over here. And you can see I've taken the battery off. So the one thing that confused me a little bit on my bike was that the black and yellow wire, which we can see right here, okay, the black and yellow wire is to go to the ignition switch white and yellow. But when I look for that white and yellow wire, weirdly I have 3 of them. So there's this one here, and then we follow up the insulation on the second one a bit. You can see there's actually 2 there, but all going to the same terminal on the coil here. And then I've got another white and yellow wire here that goes to this coil. So I've actually got 3 wires, and yet the diagram shows 1 wire, white and yellow. So I did contact Steve at Trispark to get this clarification, and he clarified that although there are 3 wires here, they're all going to the same place, and to just use one of them, ideally the one that's closest to the ignition switch, because that's where these terminate, is on the ignition switch, or they actually probably terminate together as 1 wire somewhere down in the nether regions of the wiring harness, but bottom line, they're all going to the same place. So essentially, although there's 3 wires, it's a single connection. So I'm just mentioning that for you guys in case you have a similar confusion. So he clarified that for me, so at least now I know how to do the work before I rip everything apart. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my coils, okay? So we're only going to need you know, we're only going to need the black and yellow wire and the black and white wire, and then we'll have a junction, a junction between the two, and obviously a hot wire going to earth here. So that is, and that's going to be our, you know, that's going to be our fused connection, I think. Yeah, that should be our fused connection. So, so yeah, so that's what we need to do. So you know what, without talking about it too much more, let's get after it, and let's start by going and taking these coils off and putting the new ones on. Okay, so the majority of this next bit here is going to pertain to me because I'm going to be actually replacing the coils, okay, and doing the wiring in this section here. Now, everybody's going to need to do wiring in this area, but, you know, whether you have positive ground or negative ground, etc., whether you're a classic twin or something else, it's going to be different for you. So that said, if you've got a Triumph T140v like I do, and or you've got a classic twin with similar wiring, this is probably really valuable for you to watch this section. But if not, if you've got, you know, maybe you've got negative earth or something like that that's different than mine, and you want to skip this bit, I am going to put in the right here, right about here. I'll put it right about there on the screen somewhere, or maybe over here. I'm not sure. Maybe over here somewhere. I'll put what time frame you can skip towards to skip this bit and just go straight to what I would expect to be the sort of setup and timing section, final timing section and startup of the bike. So I will put that bit here if you want to skip this bit. Okay, so now that that's said, let's start taking stuff off because these coils have got to come off. So I'm going to start pulling the spark plug wires because we're going to put new spark plug wires on here as well. So I've got some straps on there, so we'll just get those taken off. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fast forward the dismantling portion of this, and then I'll bring you back once we have things taken off and we start putting things back together again. So yeah, so I'm just going to get after it here. There's one coil. Oh, oops. There's one coil. It is a, looks like it's been in there a long time. I think for the heck of it, I'm probably not on this video, but I think I'm probably going to test those just to see how well they were working. I know they were working, but probably needed replacing, eh? See if we can get this one out. Hard to do this while you guys can see what I'm doing. Try to keep my arms out of the way. Is this also a SEBA? Also a SEBA. Interesting. I can't say that I've ever heard of that brand before. Okay, so you know what? We got those out. Now we put the other coils in. Okay, guys, you know what? I just brought the old coils over to the bench and took the wires off and was just taking a look at these things. And unbelievably, look what I found. Look what's missing. I pulled the boot back. And look at this. Can you see that? Here, let's see what this thing will focus. Come on, focus there. There you go. Look at that. What's missing? And I thought, okay, well, maybe the thing's stuck inside the coil, you know, the little metal doohickey. No. So then I thought, well, hang on, what about, are they both like that? And you know what? I pulled the other one off, and this is what I found. Unbelievable. Like, how did this bike run? It actually runs pretty well, but how did it run so well with this sort of setup? Good grief. It's a darn good thing I'm changing these coils out. It's the thing about these old bikes, you just never know what you're going to find. Okay, so we've taken the old coils out, and now we're going to go and put the new coils in. So I've just put the tabs on there. Fairly simple. And now we're just going to slide them. Well, as I say that, we're just going to slide them in there. They're a tight fit, so we have to do some wiggling and jiggling here. Don't think there's any real method to the madness here. You know what? I am going to grab a little bit of like WD-40 or something, or maybe some silicone spray, and just see if I can lube that up a little bit. I've got some silicone lubricant, so we're going to try that instead of WD. See if that's going to make this slide in process a little bit easier. Give that a go. Let's do them one at a time here. Let's go crazy. Okay, so. Oh, look at that. I guess the old girl's a little dry since it's been sitting there since 1977, eh? Almost in there. Okay, now she's seated. Yeah, it's not exactly square, is it? But that's close enough for me, I guess, under the hood here. Let's grab the other one and stick it in there. A little hard to turn once you get her going, so we'll just try to start it off relatively, right? There she is, in there. Okay, good. So now what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to consolidate these three wires into one. I'll choose one of them, and I'm going to cap off the other two. And these are for a battery. Yeah, okay, let me think about this, and then we'll bring you back. Okay, so you know what? We've got all of the wiring done. At least I think so, assuming it works. But I've got all of the wiring in there. We've got the new coils in there, new spark plug caps, new spark plug wires on both sides. We've hooked up all of the wiring per the very simple diagram, and it is very, very simple. I mean, that's got to be about the simplest wiring diagram you could imagine. So it was... I went over it about 3 times to make sure I had everything in the right spot, and I've tried, although it looks like a bit of a mess, I've tried pretty hard to keep it as tidy as I could. I could probably still tidy it up a little bit more, but want to make sure everything's working first. So you know what I think we're going to do now? Now the next thing to do, according to the diagram, or to the manual, excuse me, is to actually come on down here and to turn on the ignition and to adjust this until the light goes on. And they say to adjust it in a clockwise rotation first, and then to back it off until the light goes on, and then back it off 2 millimeters. So that's what we're going to do. The one other thing I'm going to mention, just because the instructions again didn't quite, they do say it at one point, but they didn't say it kind of you know, at the point that you need to try it, is that I had the plugs out of this thing so that I could turn the engine over easier. There is a cautionary note in the manual here that you need to actually make sure that you always have the spark plugs connected whenever you have the ignition turned on with these coils. So that's the one thing that you do need to remember to do. If you do, like me, take the spark plugs out, be sure to put them back in before you actually turn the ignition on. So anyways, with that said, you know what? It's late in the evening tonight. I've been working on this in the evening, and now it's late, so I'm going to go in and have a beer, and then we're going to get back at this in the morning and give it a test, see if what we did here actually works. Okay, so it's the next day now. That was quick. And we're now going to go and do the test to see if we have this installed correctly. And just reading the instructions here, let's take a look at it. It says, clockwise only, begin by rotating the stator unit fully clockwise in the adjustment slots, and the LED should be on. Now rotate the stator unit anti-clockwise to where the LED just goes off, and then continue rotating it anti-clockwise 2 millimeters further. Tighten it up here. The timing should be confirmed with a timing light before riding, meaning we need to then start it. So that's what we're going to do now. Let me just put you on the tripod here and zoom you in, and let's give this a go. Alrighty, I've got you on the tripod there. I'm just going to turn the ignition on. So the ignition is now on. Now we're going to go and move it forward like the instructions say. until the light goes on. Now, one of the things I found is moving this thing back and forth is a little hard. So what I'm doing is I'm using a screwdriver just on the edge here, just to index it, kind of like you would with points, you know, when you're setting points up. So there it is on. Let me just go for the back. So she's off. Let's try turning it a little bit more. On. Okay, so it says turn it until it just goes on and then back 2 millimeters. So let's just very gently turn it until it goes on. There it is, just on. Okay, that's right there. And now to move it back 2 millimeters. And I would say that's about it right there. So let's just tighten her up there. Now, the next thing, of course, is going to be to test with a timing light to get it exactly right. But this apparently is good enough to start it. So we'll just leave it like that. I'm not going to bother putting the cover on it now until obviously after we've done the test with the timing light. But for now, I think we're going to be able to start it. So that's the next bit. Okay, guys, the time has come. Let's give the thing a go. See if she'll start up for us. Alrighty. Jump on the bike. Okay, fuel on. Turn them on both sides just for the hell of it. Okay, let's see what she'll do for us. Well, geez, that's not too bad. If you can see me through the smoke, she's been sitting for quite a while and is clearly wet something, clearly, because the bike doesn't normally do that, but it is what it is. But in terms of running for a first start, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, not bad. I'm going to have to check the timing with the strobe light now and then adjust this to, you know, to get it dialed in perfectly. But I think that's actually pretty dang good. I'm pleased. So, yeah. Okay, guys. Well, you know what? That's going to wrap up this one. Boy, I'm super excited to have that Trispark Ignition installed now. The only thing I need to do now is to just set it up with a strobe light to get it exactly perfect. But she's clearly running already, so that's really good. It's a little disappointing to see it wet something still. I've obviously got more work to do, but in terms of ignition, I think we got this one solved. So hopefully that... hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Maybe this helps somebody. I know when I was looking for videos on this, there's lots of them for the Tridents, for the 3-cylinder Triumphs, but very few, in fact, almost none for the Triumph Twin, and that's why I decided to make this video. So hopefully it helped you a little bit. One of the things I'd really appreciate is please leave a comment and, hey, let me know what I was doing right or wrong. You know, I'm just, like my channel says, I'm just a mad tinkering man, and a mad tinkerer, and I don't really know what the heck I'm doing. So any guidance that you can provide and include in the comments below, I will be sure to reply to you. And please also subscribe. I could use a few more subscribers, and That's the best way to thank me, is to just subscribe. It costs you nothing. It's essentially just a bookmark. Anyways, guys, I hope you're having a great winter here. It's almost December here, and so I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their winter projects. And hey, we'll catch you on the next one.